Steve, just what's your reaction to the flagrant foul on Draymond not getting downgraded from a 2 to a 1, and then just the position that he's in now with the 2 flagrant foul points for the rest of the playoffs, with him not being able to get to 4?
I have no reaction. So we're powerless in this stuff. So we just, whatever the league decides, whatever the referees decide, that's what stands, and then we have to move on to the next game.
Does he have to be more careful now with the 2 points as opposed to 1? Are you concerned about that at all?
Sure, yeah, but he knows that, and he's got to adapt to that.
Hey, Coach, I know you got the win, but what are some areas you want to clean up for Game 2?
I thought we had some unforced turnovers, a lot of them actually, and I think we had 17 for the game. So we've got to take better care of the ball. This team is so athletic, and Ja is so dynamic in transition that we've got to make sure we're getting good shots and executing without turning it over, so that we don't let him run out and they get run outs and transition threes and fouls and all that kind of stuff.
Steve, I asked you during the season about the preparation and effort it takes to defend Giannis. I'm just curious with Ja. How does it compare? How is it different when you're facing him?
With Giannis? Comparing
How much time
Ja,
do you have to put in defending against Ja?
But comparing those two in particular?
I mean, yeah, you talked so much about how difficult it was with Giannis. I mean, is it a similar?
Well, the number one similarity is transition, where those guys are coming downhill at you. If there's any gap in your transition defense, they're going to hit the gap and get to the rim. Now, obviously, from there it's different because they're built so differently. But it's the same concept. They are, if not the two most aggressive and dominant transition players in the league, they are, certainly in the top few.
Are 11 3-point attempts for Ja sort of a pick your poison? Better that than?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. So there's no answer to stopping him. You're not going to stop him. So, we didn't love all the 3-point attempts. There were a few that we didn't feel we contested very well. But, I think in every series you have to, with the great players, whether it's Jokic last series or Ja in this series, there's a kind of a series of decisions you have to make in terms of how you're going to defend those guys, what you're willing to live with, and what are your non-negotiables. And so those are things that we talk about.
We've been asking you guys about 2015 because of Memphis and all that, but now Draymond with some flagrant foul issues, does it remind you of 2016? Oh, you have a little flashbacks to that and the way you dealt with it or didn't deal with it back then?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've been here before. I'm always amazed at the rule that a guy who loses in the first round is subject to the exact same flagrant foul points as the guy who goes to the finals. One guy plays 25 games, the other guy plays 4, and it's the exact same rule. I'm not quite sure how or why that is the case. Regardless, it is what it is. I think if I remember back to 16, Draymond was assessed several points after the fact, sort of the day after, where the league reviewed. Maybe they got some complaints from opposing GMs or whatever, or coaches, and the league reviewed it, gave him fouls, flagrant foul points after the fact. So that was pretty unique back then. I'm not sure if we've had any of those this year around the league, but yeah, we have to be prepared for that. Hopefully, we'll have a long run in the playoffs, and those are the rules, and we got to deal with them.
Steve, you mentioned last night about out-rebounding them, which was maybe surprising with Draymond out. How key was Kevon to that stat?
Yeah, Kevon was a huge part of the win. Just with Draymond out and immediately plugging Loon in at the 5, which he played that role obviously the last 2 months of the season when Draymond missed time with the back injury. So we just know we can count on Loon. He's a rebounder who is a box out guy too. So a lot of times he doesn't get credit for the rebound, but he's the one who hits the rebounder coming in, the offensive rebounder, and then that allows somebody else to get the board. So Loon is crucial for us.
After Jordan had a big game last night, do you expect a similar adjustment from this team, kind of like how Denver did with Aaron Gordon? And how big of a learning lesson was that for Jordan to kind of play against a physical guy like Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, I mean, you always expect adjustments in every series, so we're anticipating some from Memphis. And for Jordan, it's great for him to have some games under his belt where a team adapted and adjusted and tried to make life more difficult for him. So it's good that he's been through that and bounced back from that, and now he's better prepared for what he's going to face.
Steve, was there anything different that you and your coaching staff noticed about the Grizzlies after Game 1 in the last series to Game 2 that you could, that you might be anticipating for tomorrow?
Well, I mean, the obvious thing to notice is just, how tough-minded they are. They lost Game 1 to Minnesota and won 4 of the next 5. 2 of those 4. I think they were maybe 3 of the 4. They were down double figures in the fourth quarter. So we have a lot of respect for this team. They're a young, up-and-coming team, great athleticism. Taylor does an amazing job with them. They're deep. They've got a lot of options. So we've been through this before. You win one game and you move on to the next one, and it's a long series. You just got to take it one step at a time.
Steve, to your left, you were just mentioning this young and talented Grizzlies team. When you go back to your team in 2015, when you started making that push, do you see the similarities of this Grizzly team with the talent that they have and the pieces that they have as they take steps over the next few years? Maybe not matching what you guys did, but you see some semblance of similarities between the two teams? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the similarities organizationally are really striking in terms of drafting well, player development, signing the right free agents, and then putting a roster together, not just accumulating talent, but putting a roster that makes a lot of sense. Our team in 15 had been through the playoffs for a couple of years, made the conference semis once, and had a taste of big-time playoff basketball, but was ready to break through, and we were able to do that. But historically, that's what the league is about. It's about young teams trying to break through, knock off the veteran teams and establish their own place in the league. And it's generally an evolution that happens, and it's one of the best things to watch as a fan. I know our fans have loved the continuity that we've had with the Warriors. I'm sure Memphis is feeling the same way. The Grizzlies fans get to watch Ja and Bain and Jaren Jackson and guys like Anderson and Clark. I mean, they're homegrown for the most part. I know Anderson came from the Spurs, but that was a key trade or free agent signing. I forget how they got him, but you home grow it and you add pieces here and there, and the fans, they get comfortable and they get happy watching these guys. They become part of the family, and I know our fans have loved that about our team. So I think the similarities are very apt.
For Jaren Jackson Jr., he didn't get going in the last series, but had an amazing game last night, going 10 of 18 from the field. What did you make of how you guys are able to kind of match up against Jaren Jackson Jr. and how you can contain him in Game 2?
He had a great game last night. Obviously, knocked down all those threes. He's a really dynamic player. He's capable of knocking down those shots and also going inside and scoring in the paint. And So we just have to make him work. We have to make things as difficult as possible without fouling him and try to keep him off the glass.
Coach, I asked this question fully understanding that it might be difficult to kind of pinpoint one specific answer, but you look at Jordan, who his splits show, obviously, as we talked about, much better numbers as a starter than a reserve, and he came out starting in the third quarter last night, looked so much more aggressive. Do you think there is anything to the approach or the mindset of when he is starting versus when he comes off the bench?
I think you'd have to ask him, honestly. We've talked to him about the different roles, and he's been a great teammate. He says whatever, however we play him is fine with him. We have to do what we feel is best for the team, and if that means we start him, then we'll start him. But I thought last night he was brilliant, and he had obviously didn't start the game, but did have a better second half, starting the half for what that's worth. But we can't base our decisions solely on that.
Coach, you talked a little bit about pick your poison, with either Ja or trying to cut off Jaren Jackson, who had a good game in the paint. But you're able to do a good job on Bane and on, Desmond didn't really have a good, and Brooks. So what is that like? We're going to go after these guys, and if Ja goes off, whatever, we'll try to take the rest of them out.
Well, it's not that simple. This team is really well rounded, and so you try to as a staff you try to pinpoint what makes a team tick. What you can potentially stop or slow down, what you're going to have to give up, and there are different circumstances within that based on what actions they're running. So we're not under the impression that we stopped Bane and Brooks. Did a good job on them, but they missed some shots, and every game's different, so we'll have to adapt accordingly as the game unfolds tomorrow.